streamed and recorded for the public. And I think we've got everybody here now, so we'll go ahead and start the meeting. So first off, we have the agenda. So everybody's had a chance to review the agenda. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Okay, Harry, seconder, Alex. Okay. And then we also have a set of meeting minutes from April 10th. Were there any issues or changes that needed to be addressed on those? Okay, seeing none. So if I can get a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented there as well. Okay, Harry, yeah. Seconder, Marta, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so then we've got 3 presentations tonight. So we'll jump right in. The first one is for property at 5300 Tanya Drive, and it's returning from the February 27th meeting with a revised landscape plan, it looks like. So this will be introduced by Caleb Horn. So please take it away, Caleb.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I won't add much to what you've already said. This is just a returning development permit, 1366. The panel did accept the project as presented, but recommended that the landscape plan return to a future meeting. So we are here to review the revised landscape plan. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Hi, I'm Jessica from District Group. I'm actually here in place of Curtis Buick, who is the development manager on this project, but he is out of country currently, so I'm stepping in to represent District. So I'll answer any questions to my best of my ability, but not being fully involved in this project. But I also have Ben Aldaba from PMG here, so he'll probably answer or review most of the changes that were made since it's landscape. I will just touch upon a couple of the recommendations that were a bit more site planning / landscape before I flip to Ben. One of them was us to consider a connection to from our development to the Tanya Drive Lindley Valley trailhead, and due to a privately owned parcel that's kind of in between our parcel and that trailhead, we're unable to do that at this time. I don't know the background of that current private parcel, if it's what it's developed as, so I'm not sure if there's future potential, but at this moment there's not. And then the other comment was to try to retain the Arbutus Grove on the northwest corner of the property. That as well is something we're not able to do just due to the location of the road dedication that we've gone back and forth with the municipality in terms of that location. So those were 2 of the items that unfortunately we weren't able to accomplish, but for the most part, I think we've addressed everything else, which I will let Ben speak to.
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks, Jessica. I'm just going to share my screen here. That we've got the landscape plan in front of us. Yeah, so I just want to go over the changes and the improvements that we made to the landscape plan based on comments from the last go around. First off was to consider ways to make the transition between the lawn and the forest appear more natural by curving the lawn edge and adding a transitional buffer we had discussed last time. We've done that here. And I'll zoom in a little bit, but I'm just going to show you the extent of it. So all around the edge or between the retained vegetation and the rear yards of the units, we've added, between 1 and 3 rows of native plants to act as this transitional buffer. And I'm just going to show you here. It's a little bit more clear here on our shrub plan. You can see here, here in the dark green, this is all new planting that we provided. This is all new native plants throughout here on both clusters. Again, kind of stepping down from the existing vegetation through this transitional buffer and then into the rear yards. here we are, the other cluster doing the same thing. And again, depending on the room that we had, the space that we had back there, we added, between 1 and 2 rows plus some additional groupings of native planting and trees. One of the other comments was to consider adding native planting species. And again, we just kind of went through that. So we have updated our planting palette to include a lot more and a much higher percentage of native planting, as was requested. There was also a comment to consider removing the Norway maples from the planting palette, and we've gone ahead and done that. Norway maples were shown in a lot of the parking areas, in some of the areas here, and so we've replaced that with a silver maple, Acer saccharum. Consider the overall planting palette and focus more on native plants. Again, yeah, we've gone ahead and done that with the trees and as well as the shrubs and ground cover. We've greatly increased the percentage of native planting. Another comment was to consider adding boulders in more natural arrangements and not in the lawn areas. And again, we basically redid the layout here, and I'm going to zoom in. I know I'm jumping around here, but I'm just going to zoom in to show you an example of some of the areas. Previous plans showed, kind of singular boulders surrounded by some planting in some of the rear yards, but we've pulled them into the landscape beds. We've taken into account some of the slopes on site, and strategically placed clusters of boulders to help with slope retention and to allow for a little bit flatter yards here as well. So we've again, in keeping with the revised design here, we've gone to a little bit more organic layouts, rounded, more groupings of boulders, more natural looking boulders to tie in with the existing landscape. And the other point that we had addressed, consider adding a separation between the property and the protected wetland. And again, this is the best plan to show you. You can see here there's a purple line indicating a fence line. Along the back side here, we had worked with Caleb on the extents and the scope of the fencing, but it basically runs all along the back side here and along the to separate between the protected areas and the new residents. And I'm just going to show the detail of the fence. Again, this was working with Caleb on the approved split rail fence detail from City of Nanaimo. So yeah, in a nutshell, that was those are the changes that we made to the plan.
Sounds good. Yeah, if that's all you have, you can stop sharing now, and we'll take it to the panel if there's anything else. Okay. So I guess just before we go around, does anybody have any questions for staff about this? Not seeing any. So maybe we'll start with you, Harry, if you want to add any comments or thoughts.
Yeah, I think the applicant did a great job with addressing the panel's recommendations. And I have no concerns or comments about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hector?
Hi, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I don't have any comments either. I think it's a good job. It kind of aligns with the existing site. Thank you.
All right, and Marta?
I also have no additional comments. It looks great. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then over to Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it looks good. I don't have any further comments.
Okay, thank you. And then Hillary.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate the thorough explanation of how they tried to address each of the items, especially with trying to retain the Arbutus Grove and the explanation around that. So I really appreciate this coming back and looks good. Thank you.
Okay, great. And nothing more to add from my end as well. So I don't think we have any additional recommendations here. So I guess we'll put forward a motion, if somebody wants to put forward a motion to accept the application as presented with this further information and I guess no recommendations and no variances. Harry? Okay. So Harry, and then seconder is Marta. Okay, and then all in favor? Okay, great. Okay, and I just realized I forgot to do the all in favor for the agenda in the minutes. So do we need to go back and redo that, or is that? I don't know.
Sorry, to do the which?
Just to do the all in favor part of the agenda approval and the minutes approval at the start here of the meeting.
Oh,
Probably would be best.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, so maybe we'll wrap this one up and then we'll go back and do that. So it seems like we're all in favor here. So yeah, if the applicant wants to leave, we'll move on to the next presentation. But thank you very much for
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so before we move on to the next presentation, we'll just go back to the agenda there. And I believe it was Harry that put forward the motion to accept the agenda as presented. And then if I remember, I might have the seconder wrong here, but I believe it was Alex. Yeah, okay. And then, so yes, we'll just see all in favor.
Put your hand up.
Okay, everybody. Okay, and then similarly for the minutes from April 10th, I believe it was again Harry who put forward the motion, and then perhaps Marta was the seconder here on this one. I can't recall exactly. So okay, and then we'll do yes if everyone's in favor. Okay, perfect. Okay, so apologies. We've got that checked off the list now though, so we can move on to the second presentation of the night, which will be introduced by Peyton Carter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, everybody. Development permit application number DP1383 is a multifamily fourplex development with underbuilding parking in the Old City neighborhood. The subject property is zoned Old City Low Density Fourplex Residential R14 and falls within Development Permit Area 8, the Form and Character Development Permit Area, the General Development Permit Design Guidelines, and the Old City Multifamily Residential Design Guidelines apply to this project. I will hand it over to the applicant, but I'm happy to take any questions following their presentation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Peyton. My name is Steve Parhar with 40 McCleary Street Developments. I've got my colleagues here, Ken as well as Russ, for the presentation. Ken is going to lead us with the building design, and I will discuss the landscape plan and hopefully wrap up with any questions. And I will share my screen. Can you guys see that all right? All right. Over to you, Ken.
There we go. Okay, I figured out how to unmute. Afternoon, committee. Thank you very much for receiving our presentation. Thanks, Peyton. Yeah, so with the Old City development permit areas, the idea is to meet the guidelines, and that's to keep in keeping with the character of the area there, which is probably established in the 30s and the 40s. First drawing there you can see is there's a streetscape there showing the adjacent buildings on the left and the right, or the north or the south. On McCleary Street, there was a development done a few years ago, a duplex with similar ideas of gables and covered porches and things like that, and that's what we kind of emulated there. We've oriented the front of the house, the building, to McCleary Street, and at the back we have the lane where we're accessing our parking and a driveway down the side, so we're having underground parking for each unit, which has two stalls, two garages each. Pardon me. Each has a garage with two cars in each one of them there. And yeah, and then so the pedestrian access is from McCleary Street, rising up from the back to the front is about 14 feet or 4 meters, I believe it is. So it's got a good slope at the front. And we've got individual stairs accessing the front and a side path for the rest of the development. The colors were submitted, I guess, on a color sheet. We have that with which were heritage colors, I believe, as well. I don't know if you need to see the floor plan per se, but if you got the bottom there's a site plan there, which I'm assuming the committee has reviewed, and you can see the topography there, just how much it slopes from the back to the front. We've emulated the themes of the other properties there. There's a building at the south. I think that building was done in, I bet you the 20s anyways, with a veranda and gables. And the other one, like I say, is on the north side, which is a newer development, kind of emulates the same style there, which is the Craftsman style. I can't think of anything else to present other than if we've landscaped it, and Steve made a request to the landscape architect to meet that. So I'll pass it on to Steve.
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, okay, you're welcome.
So our landscape design includes a number of native species, native plants. I'm not a landscape architect, so I'll do my best. They weren't available for the meeting. We have incorporated 12 deciduous trees in the landscape plan, 14. A number in the back facing the lane, and more in the front to give it a nice streetscape. We are using about 200 shrubs, such as serviceberry, snowberry, blueberry, salal, and Oregon grape, as well as ground cover such as nicknick, strawberry, and ferns. And there'll also be about 200 perennials incorporated in this planning plan. So this is the streetscape from McCleary, incorporating the landscape plan. Here's a look from the south side, which is facing the neighboring, the older neighboring house, which Ken mentioned probably built in the 1920s. And this is the fence design. We have a number of different fences, one on McCleary. I think I can pull it up here. A cedar plank, cedar board along the driveway for privacy and security. There will be a fence, a cedar board picket fence in the front as well. And there'll be another fence along this side, another cedar board picket fence. So in the rear, it'll be 1.83 meters. In the front, it'll be 1.2, and there'll be additional 1.22 meter fence as well for privacy. And here is the planting design with ferns all and low shrubs throughout, as well as the trees. And pretty much here's the planting list with all the different species I mentioned. In terms of the trees, we're looking at maples, a Japanese snowbell, and a dogwood, or a few dogwoods, as well as there'll be existing tree to remain, which is neighboring with our neighbor to the south. So here's the plan with the house and the building rendering. Site map here as well. So the entry will be coming off McCleary, entry to 2 units. Off of McCleary, there is a path along the side that folks can, if they wanted to park in McCleary with visitors, they can get around the back as well. There is, because this unit has underground parking, the residents will have double parking garages, so they are able to enter their suites from the parking garage below. One of the reasons we designed it that way is there is as Ken mentioned, there's about a 14-foot difference between McCleary and the lane. So with the services, the way they are set up, it made sense to utilize the space rather than do fill or potentially a crawl space. In terms of the design of the house, I mean the finishings, the exterior finishings, we're looking at the cedar plank hardy to also mimic the old style, as well as some cedar shakes. And the colors that we have here in this palette are the Arctic white and deep ocean. So pretty much wraps up our presentation. Wondering if you have any questions or comments.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. First, we'll see if anybody has any questions for staff. Any panel members have any questions for staff? Not seeing any. If you want to stop sharing,
Sure.
can sit down and then we'll see everybody here. Great. Okay, so I'll pass it off to our panel to provide their comments. Maybe we'll start with Hector this time.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks to the applicant. I think it's a nice project. It blends with the context, and I think that's what a lot of times we ask, like small scale development, good housing for families. So yeah, I don't think I have any comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Hector. And then we'll go over to Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, yeah, I guess really my main question is just the choice of pavers on the side walkway. Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of my main comment there. I just don't know if over time, it's the best choice. Yeah, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Did you want the applicant to provide some explanation for their choosing, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see if the applicant wants to provide some context to that.
Sure. We went with the pavers just so we can maintain the vegetation around the side of the building as well. I mean, we definitely are open to maybe putting concrete pathway there, but I figured the pavers would be good for stormwater detention as the water will absorb into the ground. With creating the sidewalk, it will be more hard surface. So, and just allow for more vegetation. But that was the thought process behind there.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay. And then next we'll go to Hillary.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it looks good to me. There's a couple of staff comments that I think would be good if they're addressed. But otherwise, I think this is good density. I think that like the left, when you look at the side views, like the right and left elevations, it kind of looks like a bit of like stretches of blank wall on to the sides of the windows on both, but just not sure if that's to do with like the room configuration. But otherwise, I think it looks like a really nice infill project. No other comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Hillary. And then next we'll go to Marta.
Hi. So I really like the way the parking is laid out and that you go down the side of the building and do that. I really like the shared garden patio at the front and the edible plants that are part of the landscaping. I like that it's not a garage door centered, so that's good. It's not visible. Few comments. The upstairs front window for the bedroom is very small and kind of tucked to the side. That could be kind of a modern touch, but for this typology, it doesn't really work for me. So I would center it and make it larger if at all possible. I think that would be really good. Also, some more variability in the cladding. The building, these quadruplexes are fantastic, and we really like the density. But it would be nice to have just a bit more variability. It just seems like a really large building from the side. Finally, the dining nook on the four sides, to me, it looks a little odd. It's kind of small, and the windows on either side align right with the edges of the walls. It feels a little bit compressed, and I think it would probably make just a better space if we could replace it with a large window, if it's possible, through limiting distances. And also, right where the driveway comes down, that dining room nook extends downward, and it becomes very long and looks a little awkward. It'd be better to either remove it or use reveals in other ways and cladding in more interesting ways. But otherwise, thank you. That's great. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Marta. And do you have any wording suggestions for that last recommendation that you had there?
You mean the dining nook?
Just in terms of the parkade ramp the parking ramp that you were mentioning.
Right, the parking ramp is fine. It's just the dining room nooks that are kind of small on four different parts of the building. It looks especially awkward where the driveway is because it extends down an entire story, and it doesn't seem to have much of a reason on that particular floor.
Okay. Sounds good. I think I've got that there.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then next we'll go to Harry.
I like it. It follows the Old City form and character guidelines well. I just got a question for the applicant. Where would the garbage cans and recycling green bins go for each unit?
Great question. It would either be in the parkade or we'd have to find a designated area. I'm not quite sure if we could put it in the front. Ken and I would have to figure that one out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a storage area at the back of the garage. It's quite a large area. It's below grade and everything. We were going to plan on putting the bike storage that was recommended by staff's comments there. Not like a bike storage area, and pretty well be the same as other condo developments. I would assume we have the bins inside the building so that they're not going to get by vermin, I guess, and carry them, roll them up the driveway to the lane. I think is where are they going to get picked up? I guess do they pick them up in the lane? We haven't investigated that yet.
I believe it's a lane pickup from my visits, but
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have.
Great, thanks, Harry.
Yeah, thank you very much for your input.
And I think most of the comments that I had from my end have been addressed, but just making sure that ramp. I was concerned a little bit about headlights coming up the ramp for the neighbors, but it seems like you've got the cedar fencing there that looks like that'll shield the lighting there. I think maybe a bit more ornamentation throughout if there's opportunities for that. But I think it fits really well into the context of the neighborhood, and you've done a really good job to consider the adjacent buildings and tie it in there as well. So that's great. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I'll go over the recommendations that I picked up. Alex, was there anything on the pavers that we wanted to put in there, just to maybe consider
I'm just concerned about over time how it will age. You know, if they crack, if they warp, the ground moves slightly, and then also just from an accessibility standpoint, if you're an older person and or whoever, you just have trouble navigating. You know, it just could be a slight hazard or inconvenience. So I don't know.
Okay.
Just worth noting.
Yeah, I can add to consider options.
Sure.
For side pathway that will retain its structure over time.
Yeah. For safety and like ease of use, you know, if you're shoveling snow, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And then I have consider ways to break up the sidewalls. Hillary, is that something we wanted to include there as well?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Great. Okay. And then from Marta, we have just consider increasing the size of the master bedroom window and centering.
Yep, that's one.
And then increase the variability of the siding, and then also increase the dining nook windows sizes.
Yeah, just we can even amalgamate them into one and just get.
Okay.
I don't know. It just seems that the living room doesn't have a lot of window except street facing, so it would be nice if we could, if it would be possible to make larger windows on that wall. It's quite blank, and all the windows seem to be grouped together in the center, so it'd be nice to space them out a little better.
Okay, so maybe consider increasing and reconsider like location of the windows for the bedroom
Yes.
and the dining room. Okay.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so we have 4 recommendations there. Consider options for side pathway that will retain its structure over time. Consider ways to break up sidewalls. Consider increasing size and reconsidering location of windows in bedroom and dining nook, and then increase variability of siding. So with all of those, I don't believe we have any variances on this project being proposed. So
Yeah, that's right.
Great, thank you. So I'll ask that somebody make a motion to accept the application as presented with the 4 recommendations. And yeah, okay, Harry, and the seconder, Marta, and then all in favor. Great, okay. So thank you very much to the applicant for bringing that in, and feel free to leave whenever you like, and we'll move on to the final presentation.
I'd like to thank the panel very much for their input. Very good suggestions in that. And we'll work with that, and yeah, develop it even better, make it better.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so we have our final project of the evening at 4951 Denford Place, and that will be introduced by Christine Mays.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So development permit application DP 1384 is for 8 2 to 3-story ground-oriented multifamily residential buildings, and that comprises of 32 3-bedroom townhouse units. Subject property is zoned low-density residential, so that's R6, and is designated suburban neighborhood and city plan. The subject property is located at the terminus of Denford Place in the Rocky Point, Hammond Bay, and Stephenson Point neighborhood. Subject property falls within 3 development permit areas, so that's development permit area 5, that's our wildfire hazards, development permit area 6, which is our steep slope development, as well as development permit area 8, which is farming character. And as such, 2 sets of design guidelines apply. So our general development permit area design guidelines, as well as our steep slope development permit area design guidelines. A variance has been requested for this application. That's to increase the height of buildings 1, 3, 5, 6, and 8 from 9 meters to 10 meters. Thank you, Madam Chair. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to take them on after the applicant's presentation.
Thank you. And the applicant can share their screen now and proceed with the presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I trust you can all see my screen. My name's Glenn Hill from DHK Architects. I'm joined this evening by Maria Turner from DHK Architects, who is our lead design architect on this project with me. And we also have Chris from Kinship Art Ecology, who is our landscape consultant. We have been also working with Newcastle Engineering for our civil design, and just like to acknowledge our surveyor who has helped us tremendously through this process on this rocky site. That's Williamson Associates, and also Strathcona Forestry for providing us with the fire report as required by the development permit area for the fire hazard. So this is our project. As you know, it's a cluster of residential buildings. Oh, this is not. There we go. So this is the site, and the site is sort of a undeveloped parcel at the end of Denford Place, which connects out to Hammond Bay Road. The image on the left here is the end of Denford, which is has a turning circle at the end of it with the driveway access that we come in from there and then access the site. The context around our entryway sort of shows the mature nature of the surrounding residential neighborhood, largely single family duplex type homes, family sized homes. Just a quick aerial view of our site design. This is a project that we worked on several years ago. These are ground orientated 1 and 2 story duplex, triplex, and fourplexes. This is the turning circle at the end of Denford, where our driveway would come in and drop down the hill. It then splits into a lower road that comes along this way, and then into an upper road that comes up and accesses up to the top of the site. This is essentially one of the last parcels as part of the original Vista View development that we did approximately 8 years ago. And the property was picked up by another developer, and so we've been working with Race Rock Developments to bring this project to you this evening. Just again, borrowing some of Nanaimo's fantastic GIS map. Just by way of context, the sort of bigger context, the neighborhood housing mix, the yellow squares represent the sort of strata units, the smaller type residential units. We've got and then basically surrounded by a large neighborhood of mostly single family homes built on undulating slopes as we rise up and then over and down towards the water. You can see that Denford connects through to Hammond Bay Road. Hammond Bay Road is our primary multimodal transit connector. Vista View Crescent also loops around to Williamson and then back out onto Hammond Bay Road. There is future park space that's going to be weaving its way laterally along Hammond Bay Road in the future. The school is here, so this certainly centers itself strategically around reasonably close amenities. There's a little commercial restaurant down in this side as well. So you can see the current zoning is largely residential, and then we've got some park space that's noted here with the school site and the commercial down here, the restaurant down here. Future land use is all going to be suburban neighborhood, as Christine mentioned. And then this illustrates our development permit areas. So we've got the steep slope and the yellow zone, which is the fire hazard area. So just a bit of context that way. Looking then into our site, we've got 8 buildings that are have been sort of strategically placed on the site through our civil consultants and our surveyor. We approached this property because of the significant grade changes in every which direction. We wanted to, first of all, find a network of driveway bringing people in and out of the property that, as best as we could, followed the natural topography to limit the sort of disruption that we're doing. And then from there, we started looking at building types that could be addressed by those driveways and either notch into the hill to create a scenario where there's lower level entryways and mid-level or upper level access out onto either a ground level patio or deck space. And then we have other decks that look over into the streets. So a collection of buildings that largely responded to the micro site location around each of the buildings. I would just note quickly that the parcel does have 3 different covenant titles on it that limited the number of units per parcel. So the buildings were we also had to make sure that we were following that covenant that was on title. So lower density here in reflection to the neighboring context, and then there's a mid zone and then a third zone here. So we kind of followed that, and then we started placing our buildings. The site sort of evolved out of those different aspects. This site section gives you a quick understanding of the previous development that we worked on. So this is the neighboring property. We drew a site section that basically pulled through the center of the site, as you can see kind of here. The section cut comes along through this building. This is the upper road and then the other buildings. And so you can see where on the extremely steep areas, we placed and tried to navigate the design of the units so that the upper level, in this case, would have a patio access at the rear and then have generous decks looking into the street, with the lowest level being the driveway entry. Our plan types range largely. These are family-orientated homes, relatively large in size. You can see here that we've got sort of 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom homes that are come with full-size 2-car garages with additional space for the required bike parking. We have the 3-tier recycling located with enough space that you can still park your cars and get in there. Some of the units have additional living spaces, so we're really trying to emphasize the sort of the family orientated unit types, which I think is a relatively good mix with given our context. And then we get into some variations of those units, again based on how they were located on the site. And then built unit type E and F are the tighter townhouse style, which would be the taller stacked, slightly smaller in square footage, but all sort of achieving that 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom family style home. To talk quickly about our materials, we have a fairly simple palette of materials that we think complements the architectural design and the sort of the form and character that we've studied and presented, are going to present to you tonight. So we have gray tones for the cement panel material, and then we have wood tone accents, which we are really kind of expressive within the form and character of the buildings. And then we have glass guardrails, so lots of visibility into the street, assuming that there would be kids and interaction and various other things like that. And then we have our shingle roof. It's a good time to sort of acknowledge that one of the staff comments was to is to consider a little bit more variety in materials. So we've received that feedback already, and we'll certainly be giving that the consideration it needs as we advance the design. The elevations, the form and character, our roof planes kind of undulate similarly, and we're kind of inspired by the undulating topography, where we wanted to kind of acknowledge that each of the units would have to step upward or downward depending on where it was, and so we wanted to create sometimes a symmetrical and then sometimes an asymmetrical roof pitch that just sort of characterized the irregularity of the topography that we were working with. We sort of placed the wood accents around the front doors, understanding that garage doors are big things and are necessary, but again, that would be it was another consideration was to sort of how to de-emphasize the garage with the front doors. So we've kind of started that process by trying to where we can identify that, but again, something to consider, knowing that we've already received that comment. These are the other elevations, give you an understanding of how these buildings kind of needed to navigate upward and downward to follow the topography of the driveways. And then the townhomes, the taller, skinnier 3-story ones, we started that sort of asymmetrical roof pitching just to kind of create a bit of variation in the overall form and character, as I've sort of described. Wood accents kind of tie some of the windows together. You'll see in the renderings coming up, the wood accent plays a sort of a significant role in the form and character and the living spaces that are outboard of the units. So again, there's just sort of rolling through our buildings. I can mention quickly that the bar that you see, the shaded area that you see in these elevations, illustrates the variances that we are requesting. However, there is only one of the buildings. This is building 6, where the ridge line of the top building of the top unit, just based on the topography, actually encroaches or goes beyond the the permitted height. However, with all of these projects that we've been working on, when we come within 6 or 10 inches of max height, we would like to ask for a variance. So this just illustrates that buildings don't necessarily require a variance, but we would like to ask for one in the event that rock blasting and various other natural phenomenon during construction would alter that, and we would like to have a little bit of extra wiggle room just to make sure that we don't have to seek variances afterwards. So sorry to go backtrack on that. So just to give you some renderings, this is the entry that you would be coming in from Denford Place, coming down the driveway where our car is coming in here, and then this is access down to the lower road and then access to the upper road. This is building 5 here. This is building 4. So the entryway, we've got mail drop and bicycle locks at the sort of the entry of the site. A bit of a drop-off zone there, and then this is looking westerly down towards the undeveloped parcel beyond, and then over to the school. To give you a bit of context, this view is looking back. This is from the upper driveway that's looking back towards building 4 and 5. Building 4 here, building 5. So you can see the 2-story look and feel shifts slightly from the 3-story asymmetrical look and feel, but in all of these cases, we really wanted to explore how the wood feature could be illuminated and could be a sort of a really elegant privacy screen from the neighboring deck, and then also just create that warm feel as part of the outside living experience of the units, understanding that they're stacked and tall and 3 stories. We've turned some of the roof planes, come down and then break a little bit to create a relief in that at the end unit. So just allowing some of those extra vistas to kind of come in and play the game of inside outside space and also break up the form and character where when we get to the ends of the buildings. Building 7 over here is one of the ones that is accessed from the lower road. There is a significant pathway that comes up, and I'll let Chris talk about the pathway connections, but in where we have been able to, we've created access to the patios and pathways up through the building so that the site feels a little bit more connected, and residents would feel there's opportunities not to just be limited to walking up and down the driveway, but to be able to navigate through some of the landscape zones and find those little moments on the steps where kids could sit and have a chat. And there's also, this is the amenity at the sort of the heart of the driveways. There's a landscape zone which obviously has a lot of eyes onto it. So kids playing or hanging out there would just sort of contribute to the culture of the community that we're striving to achieve here. This view is looking north. So from the undeveloped site, this gives you an aspect of the low road, and then the units that would be facing into the undeveloped parcel. So these guys would be having views into the trees that are still there, and then this is that lower unit that has the upper patio, which is still surrounded by a retaining wall up to the upper road, and this is building 3 in the background as you go up the road. And I think I'll just sort of leave it there. I mean, I think we've kind of touched on the fact that we're using the roof planes as privacy screens, but we're also using them as to try and create these outdoor rooms. That's an extension of the sort of the family style living, where there's plenty of places to get to without necessarily having to work your way down to the ground plane. If there's any other questions, happy to answer them. I can clarify if there's anything that I've missed, but yeah, looking forward to your comments.
Okay. Did you want to go through the landscape details?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm like, it's been a day. Chris, I believe I'll stop sharing, and you can.
No worries. You did a great job.
That was one of those moments. I'm sorry.
No problem. I'll just share my screen as well. Now, okay, I'm hoping you can see that screen I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll just start with an overview of the landscape and then go through the site pretty briefly. So the landscape design for the multifamily project that you see here at Denford draws inspiration from what is a fairly dramatic natural landscape, rocky outcroppings, dramatic topographic variations, as you gathered from the way that the units were situated, but also some really beautiful expansive views out to the sort of the northwest, I guess, so you could capture that in some of those 3D renderings. So the underlying historic plant community there is what provides us with a lot of inspiration on the planting side of things. It's arbutus, big leaf maple, punctuated with mossy outcroppings, and a forest dominated by Douglas fir. So this, it's an archetypal kind of rain shadow coastal Douglas fir ecosystem landscape, and it's an important reference guide for what you'll see throughout the development. Also, as noted, you can see that you heard, there is a moderate wildfire risk there, and that's illustrated in this portion of the site. That's sort of the southwest portion of the site. And so the fire smart principles that we would apply in that situation is to prioritize deciduous over coniferous trees. And then as we get closer to the dwelling units, to have a more meadowy kind of a landscape and preserving rocky outcroppings, as rocky outcroppings won't burn. And also maintaining sort of a lush understory landscape in front yards and in surrounding the buildings. Also fundamental to the landscape as you come in are some gathering places to provide a social hub where the roads diverge, or a green heart sort of between the roads here that provide social spaces for people to come together. There is a pedestrian network that runs through the site behind the buildings, connecting open spaces. There's a pedestrian walkway integrated into the roadside so that you can have a continuous walk through the site. Ideally, perhaps a connection out to the adjacent community as well at the northern portion of the site. Also, you heard that there'd be extensive blasting going on to create a buildable site here, and so to harness some of the rock materials for that, to bring in that natural character to the development as well through in walls, other furnishings like benches and retaining walls that delineate front yards and that kind of thing. So we'll go through the site a little bit more in detail in a moment, but as we do that, just to keep in mind some of these design precedents as they kind of try to illustrate some of the form and character. So where we do see that interface of that green heart or that pocket park, allowing trees and natural features to kind of penetrate into what is an otherwise built landscape. So you create an interesting dialogue between built, contemporary, and sleek finishes with very naturalized spaces. For the trail network, particularly as it goes through meadow landscapes and up and down hills between buildings or what have you else, to have these modular, flexible, field fittable kind of stairs that really can nestle themselves into the landscape nicely and just have a nice character of being able to position you very closely to Garry Oak Meadow landscapes, that kind of character. And also preserving some of the natural character of the rocky outcroppings you see here. Front yards would be a mix of indigenous understory species and complementary ornamentals that would be attractive to biotic pollinators and other beneficial insects. I mentioned boulder rock walls as a feature element, as there will be some material from preparing the site. And so looking at ways to sort of use those to delineate yards, maybe and put a small short picket fence on top as needed to create privacy between spaces. And again, here you see some of the suggestions for a night dark sky compliant, kind of preserve the night sky, lower key light standards for along roadways and elsewhere on the site. We're not really proposing things like bollard lighting so much. You can see from the renderings that Glenn showed that there's a lot of lighting on the architectural plus the street itself. So that captures the need. We don't want to over illuminate or anything like that. So looking a little bit more closely, so behind just as you enter the site, proposing what would be kind of a meadow walk. And as you look out to the southwest, there's a dramatic drop off and an expansive view. So we've positioned some sitting spots along that meadow walk, very much an immersive landscape inspired by the Garry Oak Meadow, also being a meadow landscape less prone. If there's, in our estimation, a good choice for fire smart plantings. As you move through, you can pass down through those field fit stairs kind of a thing and connect into what's a pocket park at the center of the site, which is a small urban amphitheater. We're constrained in these situations by grades and ensuring privacy to adjacent buildings. So the size is somewhat constrained, but what we can achieve in there is a site that's probably suitable for young kids to crawl around, scramble up on rocks, play around in some trees, maybe some hillside landscape features adjacent in a little meadow landscape for playfulness, that sort of thing. Not trying to avoid playground features as they require fall zones and rubber matting and all these other elements that kind of pull away from that natural character and really get constrained. You end up with one little twirly device instead of a larger space that can be occupied by people of many generations and ages. Toward the middle is this area is what we're calling sort of a central commons, and it's kind of the green heart. It's not a large space either, but it will feel very immersed as there's a significant, the road A here is quite a bit above there. So this terracing of plantings that come down to what is a fairly quiet space. Again, welcome to have playful games of hide and seek in that kind of a space for kids or whatever else. But again, reflecting on that image at the start of that amphitheater with trees, that's the kind of the feel that we'd be going for in that space in there. Through these front yards, they would, again, as reflecting on some of those precedent imagery, that balancing of indigenous coastal Douglas fir understory plantings with other suitable drought tolerant colorful wildflower perennial plants, like to add color and attract beneficial insects, bees, that kind of stuff, and just add beauty and character, seasonality in the landscape. Throughout I've hinted at this internal network. These patios connecting to pathways that connect throughout the site, trying to create linkages. It's not exactly high traffic zones in here, so these are fairly easy connections from a trail to a pocket park over to a path that leads up. Similarly, a path that connects down into a small seating area that really kind of pushes you deep, a feeling of deepness into that forested landscape, and connecting again through. So you can imagine people going on strolls through the community, experiencing what amounts to in my opinion, a remarkable kind of diversity of the character of landscapes in a single site, from forest to meadow to urban to playful. And at the entry, we'd be proposing an entry sign here, a welcome sign, just so people can orient there, and strategically considering wayfinding throughout to direct people to these various elements. For fencing, I know that's an important feature. We're proposing privacy fencing, but primarily focused to the, not running around the perimeter of the parcel, as that seems unnecessary. But here you can see it tying in to create some backyards over around these buildings up on the upper side. A fence that does indicate that this is a private residential development, but tying in to buildings here, and then it would if we go around to the north portion, not much to focus on here, but just you can see that fence continuing around, and an overall generous planting of trees. The site itself is about 1.4 hectares, which would require 140 replacement trees. We're proposing 175, so really trying to bring back that forest feeling once the site goes through the process of site preparation. So I'm comfortable leaving it with that and turning it over to some questions, and hopefully that provides you with some context to think about.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, before we do our comments, I'll just see if there's any questions for staff from panel members on this one. No? Okay. Oh, sorry, Alex. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so when it comes to the material palette, that was mentioned. I have no issues with that. I think it looks nice. But I'm just curious, because it's in a wildfire hazard DPA 5 zone, there was no mention of the materiality and if that would inhibit any potential future fires. It just seemed like just regular roofing tile, regular exterior material. So I was just wondering if that's something that needs to be considered.
I don't know, Glenn, maybe if you wanted to speak to that, but for Development Permit Area 5, we do receive a wildfire risk assessment report. And so what we're expecting through this process is that those recommendations are incorporated in there. So oftentimes it can be landscaping. It can potentially also be materiality on buildings. But Glenn, I'm not too sure if you've got any comments, or maybe Chris too on the landscaping side.
Yeah. So, sorry, I was looking for my unmute button when you asked the question. So the exterior materials, the asphalt shingles, we may need to consider that, or just check in on that to confirm that they do have a bit of a resistance. Our materials are sort of fiber cement based, so relatively, I would never say fireproof but certainly much more resistant than a vinyl or an actual like cedar wood siding or something. Our wood is Maria, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we're looking at wood look plank siding, so it's likely to be either a wood look interlocking metal siding to make it look like a shiplap, or another kind of fiber based cement panel that we've been sort of looking at on projects. So
that's right.
Yeah. There's a certain level of kind of robustness to the materials right now. So hopefully that at least touches on the subject and can certainly follow up through any recommendations or other considerations.
Yeah, that was helpful. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none. So we will just go right into our comments. And maybe we'll start with Harry again this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Yeah, the renderings look great. Nice, sleek, modern design. I really like it. I agree that it does need a bit of a splash of color because it does repeat in my view. Other than that, landscape looks great. The height variance is minimal, and you explained it very well, Glenn, why you needed it. No, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Harry. And then we'll go to Hector.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, really nice project. I'm not an expert in fire prevention on this in this kind of context, but maybe the roofing could be done with the standing seam. I know it has a cost penalty, but again, if there's like a fire associated with this area, will be a good choice of material. I think my only recommendation would be to do like some partial fencing between the units on the backyards. I know that there is like a sloping side, and again, they don't need to be like full high fences or like or either full fences, maybe just some sort of privacy screen. Beyond that, about the coloring, I was thinking a little bit about that. I'm not too sure. I mean, this is kind of like a Scandinavian style, very muted color, so I don't know. I'm on the fence about the color recommendation, but overall it looks good. Again, very nice renderings. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Hector. We'll move on to Marta next.
Hi. Yes, I agree with Hector. It does feel very much like some buildings we saw over in Trondheim in Norway. They're very cute. Yeah, I love them. No issues with the variances. I like how you worked with the grades. I think that's lovely. I like the palette the way it is. And I like the meadow walk. I think that's lovely to be able to eventually maybe access that future park space, maybe, if it ever happens. And the idea of using a large variety of plants that's currently on site. Like there's a lot of healthy, beautiful trees there and a big variety right now. So it's nice to see that in the landscaping, when you're taking them away, you're putting that variety back in. I like that there's some intent to connect up to, I think it's Curry Road up on the north there. Couple little things. I do agree with the staff comments to, if possible, to retain more of the trees, or at least the rocky outcrop at the north end of the site. So I saw an opportunity. I don't know if it's possible I don't know what the setbacks are, but on the northeast portion of the site next to Unit 32, there's a pretty large space between the property line and the unit. Maybe there's a way to squeeze a building in and remove one of the ones from the north so you can highlight that beautiful rocky outcrop at the north, that when, you know, all the people that live on Curry from your last development, Glenn, they have a view of that, and it's really spectacular. So it would be nice to retain that. I love how you guys thought of the night sky with the lighting. The lighting's very thoughtful throughout the entire project, even the buildings themselves. Yeah, I'm thrilled. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Marta. So I have consider options to retain rocky outcrop in northeast portion, as well as consider options to retain more trees on the site. Does that capture what you're going for there?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Marta. Okay, next we'll move on to Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks to the presenters. I really like the project. I'm familiar with the site. I lived on Curry Place for 3 years. One of my concerns was, because I know the residents of Curry Place, they're kind of elevated above this development, so they could be looking down onto these new properties. So in the B4 cluster, it just seemed like maybe there could be some more trees there for privacy, but I think you did put in a fence for privacy, so maybe that's enough. And so that was really my major concern, but I think there are some trees in between the neighbors and the future development. So I don't know how much of an issue that would be, but yeah, I thought you did a really nice job of integrating with the topography of the site. I also like the dark sky compliant lighting. I think that's good because you get, you know, nice dark skies out there. And then I like the internal walkway, and yeah, I think it's going to be a nice project. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And we'll move on to Hillary.
Thank you. I really like the look of this project. I think certainly it's a form that we need more of, these 3-bedroom family homes. So that's nice to see. I think there's some good staff comments around bird-friendly glazing, particularly on the glass railings. As far as the colors, at first I thought it looked a little bit drab, but then in seeing your renderings, I see the vision, and I think it looks quite nice and sleek and modern. So I wouldn't necessarily say more color needed in this case. I couldn't tell from the renderings what kind of bike racks you have planned, but we like to recommend 2 points of contact. I can't really tell from your renderings if that's already the plan. And yeah, appreciated the comments around potentially retaining more trees and vegetation where possible, and with having like maybe a larger designated area for kids to play, since it is sort of family oriented in that sense, and like a common amenity space. But otherwise, I think it looks like a really nice project, and really appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Hillary. Yes, thanks for the presentation. It was great to go through, and thanks to the other panel members for the comments. I think a lot of the items I had listed have already been covered, so that's great. One question I had is if there's an opportunity, and I'm not sure what the elevations, if it would work out, but to connect the actual roadway through to Curry Place.
So there was talk about that, and I don't know, Maria, can you maybe speak to the rationale why it ended up not connecting? Had it something to do with the strata not wanting it to connect through?
Yes, I do believe it. It was like multiple variances and talks to the city, and at some point it was the decision was made not to connect it. I believe it was partly to save the amount of units, but we can look into it and send you more information. But we did look at this option at the beginning, and it didn't work. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it just seems like, it would divert a bit of the traffic away from Denford Place, which could be helpful to just, a bit more traffic balance there. So that was one thought. Yeah, I agree with some of the other panel members. I originally thought the color palette was a bit maybe a bit just not a lot of variety in it, but the renderings really help with that. It really brings to life what you're going for there, and I think it looks really good. So I would maybe say, if there's ways to consider introducing small bits of color, I think that would be helpful, but I wouldn't want to do it at the cost of compromising that really polished look. So something to think about there, I guess. One other question I had was if there's any like path networks, whether they're informal or formal to the school currently, and if there's an opportunity to retain some of that connection through the site.
Early on in this project, the grand object with the developer was actually trying to negotiate with the landowner of that parcel to incorporate that as part of this as a bigger thing, and there was talk about creating a connection down and doing all that stuff, but unfortunately our client wasn't able to reach an agreement with the landowner, and so we had to and I think they are the backstory of that goes sort of a legacy back where they've been trying for many years to kind of combine the lots together, and I think they, after several attempts, they just had to move forward with what they had and make the best of that. So, but I would, who knows what somebody will do in the future on that linear parcel. But yes, it's directly connected to the access to across Williamson to the school. It's just a slightly more spaghetti noodle walk to school, I guess, right? So.
Yeah, it's okay. Thanks for that, Glenn. Yeah, I think if there's an opportunity to, just consider that for future development or to kind of put allowances in there so that it seems like it could work with how the site is laid out currently. But as you go through the details, maybe that's something to consider, is having that option there for future.
I think kids are going to quickly realize that they can get to school in 2 minutes if they climb down the rock face and wander through the trees.
Yeah, it's
maybe that will be a future generation influencer whenever the developer actually comes along and sees the GO trail and realizes that it's
yeah. Well, from Google Earth, it almost looks like there's maybe like some pathways in there, but maybe it's just kind of a natural that's happening. But yes, no, if this is a family spot, it could be something that develops. But yeah, I think that's actually all the comments I had from my end. So maybe I'll just go through all the recommendations, and the panel members can let me know if I've missed the mark on anything here or missed any of them altogether. So consider options to introduce more color in building facades. Did we want to? I know there's kind of some mixed feels there, but do we want to leave that in maybe with the contingency that like, I think it seems like we're all, mostly in favor of how it's looking, but just creating a bit more variation there. Does that seem similar? No? Okay, well,
Got awfully quiet.
Anybody opposed if I leave it in? That one? No. All right. Okay, so we'll leave it there to consider. And then consider partial fencing between units in backyards. Consider options to retain rocky outcrop in northeast portion. Consider options to retain more trees on site and increase amenity space. Or outdoor amenity space, I should say. For building B4, consider options to maintain privacy from units on Curry Place. Do we want to have that in there, Alex, or do you think? I know, yeah, there's the fencing and.
Maybe not. It's hard to say because I think there's actually a good amount of trees in between the properties. So yeah, that doesn't have to stay in there.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, cross that one off. And then consider using bird-friendly glazing for the patio spaces. Consider using bike racks with 2 points of contact, and then consider potential future use of or potential future pathway to the school. So if I missed any there, okay. Okay. And then of course we have the variances here for 1 meter, I believe it is, for buildings 1, 3, 5, and 8. So any comments on the variances, or anybody opposed? No? Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to accept the application as presented with we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 recommendations and approval of the variances? Okay. Marta makes the motion, and then Harry as the seconder there, and all in favor. All right, everybody. Oh, all right. I think that's everything there. So yes, thanks a lot to the applicants for coming in, and we'll look forward to seeing this one move ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Maria, for all of your hard work designing this project.
Thank you. Okay, so for the panel members, I think we do have an item for other business to appoint a formal or a permanent chair. So we'll stay on there to do that. So I know Marta and Harry, you weren't here last week. I don't know if, yeah, Christine, feel free to jump in, or Elenia, feel free to jump in if you want to take the reins on this. But yeah, so I'm filling in for a couple weeks as chair because Marie's term has come to an end, and so we are hoping to appoint a new chair. So I don't know if either of you are interested in taking on that role, but yeah.
I'm way too busy for that role, unfortunately, with my business and what have you. So I'll have to decline.
Let me think on it a little bit. This is the first I've heard of it, other than at the beginning of the meeting. So I need to consider it seriously. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. I think Christine, you mentioned the May 25th meeting is canceled, it sounds like, and so I'm happy to chair the first June one, and then maybe we can revisit it at that time if that works for everybody.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie.
Thanks, Angie.
Super. Okay. Well, thanks for bearing with me tonight as I got through a few of these things.
You did a great job.
Great.
We just need a motion to accept the accept you as chair for the May or for the next June meeting.
Okay, sounds good. So does somebody want to make the motion? Yeah, for me to remain as chair for the next meeting. Okay, Harry, seconder, Marta, and then all in favor. Okay, great.
Thank you.
And then are we good to adjourn? We can do our adjourn right now. Okay. So if somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn. Okay, Hector, seconder, Harry, and then all in favor. Great. Okay. Thanks, everybody.